Okay, since all of you have been here already, okay, yeah, before that, I would like to remind you about our webinar rules. Maybe operators can share screens. Okay, let's see. Okay, Mrs. Zibek already here. Also, presidents. Hello, Bang Sadam. Bang Sadam lagi di mana, Bang Sadam? Where are you right now? While we wait, okay, guys. Okay. Okay, operators. We still wait for the another speakers to join us in this webinar. So I would like to remind you the rules of our webinar. Please change your name format into participant underscore your name. Yeah, for example, participant Yusri. And the second, if you don't have any trouble with the internet network, you have to turn on your camera so we can have a dialogue interactive with our speakers. And please use the virtual background that Komit already sent it in our WhatsApp group. And please stay unmute until the MC and the moderator allow you to speak.
Hello, Yusri. How
Okay.
are you?
Because the speaker already here. Okay, we just start our webinars. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. The Honorables, the President of Asian Africa Youth Government, Respiratory Sadam Al-Jihad. How are you, Mr. Sadam?
Hello. How are you, Yusri?
Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, bersemangat sekali, Bang Sadam ya.
Yeah.
And then the Honorable Mrs. Gracia Paramita, PhD, Lecturer LSPR, Communication and Business Institute Jakarta. Hey, Miss Gracia, Miss Grace, yeah, if I may say that. Is there any, are you there, Miss Grace? Okay, maybe Miss Grace will join us in several minutes. Okay, and we have the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Zaman Bajwa, Coordinator Minister on Politics, Law, and Security of Asian African Youth Government. Hello, Mr. Zaman. Are you there, Mr. Zaman? Yeah, okay. The next one, we have the Honorable Mr. Naufal Alda, Coordinator Minister on Economics and IT of Asian African Youth Government. Hello, Mr. Naufal. Are you there? Mr. Naufal?
Hello, everyone. I'm here. I hope that you hear me good.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you clearly. Thank you, Mr. Noval. Yeah, Mr. Noval is from from Pakistan. Is that right, Mr.?
No, from Morocco.
Yeah, okay. So, and also our moderators for this webinar is Mrs. Zibek Azigalieva, Deputy Minister of Tourism of Asian African Youth Government. She will guide our webinar, our main event in the main event. Okay. She also for all the participants, distinguished delegates, I would like to welcome you to the AAYG International Webinar, The Impact of Russia-Ukraine Conflict on the Asia-Africa Economy. Okay, it is a great honor for us to welcome all of you this afternoon. On behalf of ASEAN African Youth Government, we would like to express our gratitude to all of the participants who have joined this event. My name is Yusri Fajri Anur, and I will be the master of ceremony for this great event until the end. For your information, this webinar not only attended by Indonesian youngs, but also attended by the other country from Sri Lanka, Gambia, and also from Sudan. All right, talking about our theme today, we're talking about economy. After almost 2 years of fighting against COVID-19, the global economy finally experienced positive growth towards recovery in 2022. Public consumption rose sharply since the number of COVID-19 cases have continued to decline. However, global industry unable to confront the massive demand in such a short time and led countries toward inflation. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, understanding the impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict on the Asia-Africa economy is important for prevent another Great Depression to pave the way for Asia-Africa as regional strategic role in the economic sector. Stakeholders of its region must not miss the opportunities to create awareness regarding the economic crisis. So the Asian African Youth Government present an international webinar to discuss and give new thought to this critical issue. But before that, I would like to invite the president of the Asian African Youth Government, Respiratory Mr. Sadam Al-Jihad, to give the welcoming remarks. Mr. Sadam, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Master of Ceremony Usri. This is a great event, the first event to intensive member. This is Asian African Youth Government, the international webinar. Yeah, thank you very much also for moderator Zibek as Deputy Minister of Tourism of Asian African Youth Government. Yeah, from Kyrgyzstan. Hello, how are you?
Good afternoon. Good.
Great.
Yes, great. How about you?
Yeah, great. Yeah, I hope all of you, the participant and the speaker, you are very well. First of all, I thank you very much for your presence, speaker and audience in this webinar to discuss the impact of Russia-Ukraine conflict on Asia-Africa economy. Yet there are three wonderful speakers. My dear brother from Morocco, how are you, Noval Olda? This is my coordinating minister of economic.
Assalamualaikum, brother. Yeah, I'm fine. What about you?
Alhamdulillah.
That's everything is good with you.
Great.
Yeah. It's so nice to see you and see you, the participants as well. Thank you for invitation.
Yeah, most welcome. Uh, and Muhammad Zaman Bazwa as coordinating minister on politics, law, and security of Asian African Youth Government. How are you, my dear brother Muhammad Zaman Azwa? Are you there? Okay. And the last one, one beautiful speaker, Gracia Paramita, as lecturer, London School, Public Relation, Communication, and Business Institute, Jakarta. Are you there? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is time to deliberative discussion, to discussion about the hottest issue of the world, Ukraine and Russia war. What about the impact in Asia and Africa economy? I would like to remind you that it's undeniable to gain the consequences of Ukraine-Russia war, as there has had shocking effect all over the world, especially in Africa and Asia. Asian African countries which are currently struggling with not only political and socio-cultural problems, but also economic problems, are exposed to the impact of this conflict when they have yet to recover from the crisis of COVID-19. You know, the deepest impact of this war, both Africa and Asia, has begun to be felt in the food crisis, which is already a grave situation. Co-director of TASAM African Institute, Yildirim Kinal, said the war, a very large segment of access to food. As we know, Russia and Ukraine are among top 5 exporters of barley, sunflower, and corn. While the world will export, these two countries have 1/3 share. You know, in 2020 alone, African state imported $4 billion of agriculture products from Russia and $2.9 billion from Ukraine. And for direct impact of the war to Asia, especially the Southeast Asian countries, there has been the rise of commodity prices, in particular of oil, nickel, wheat, and corn. For example, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, the impact of rising oil prices is evident in transport, housing, electricity, gas, and other sectors. And I highly hope this forum could discuss the evidence and then formulate the solution on how to contribute to solve the problem, so that government is going to focus on the economic recovery after COVID-19. Yeah, this is time to you, my brother Olda, Novel Olda, Zaman, and the sister Zibek, and to mediate the forum, and please discuss this forum to find the solution about the current situation on Ukraine and Russia, because I think Asia and Africa can big impact this war between Russia and Ukraine. Please find the solution, create the solution, and create the recommendation for our countries, your countries, and this is time to you. Thank you very much. The tiger of Asia, the lion of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. What a wonderful and warm, passionate, welcoming speech by the President of Asian African Youth Government, Respiratory Mr. Sadam Al-Jihad. Okay, well, entering our main event, which will be presented by Mrs. Gracia Paramita, PhD, lecturer LSPR Communication and Business Institute, Jakarta. Mr. Muhammad Zaman Bajwa, Coordinator Minister on Politics, Law, and Security of AAYG. Mr. Noval Olda, Coordinator Minister on Economic and IT of AAYG. And this main event will be guided by Mrs. Sibek, Deputy Minister of Tourism of the Asian African Youth Government. She has work experience as customer service manager and student services. Also currently works as an English teacher at elementary school of Edu Global in Bandung, Indonesia. She completed a Bachelor of Public Administration in Academic of Public Administration under President of Kazakh Republic, Bishkek, Kazakhstan in 2028. Okay, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Mrs. Zivek. Yeah, I'm struggle to speak the language. So, are you ready, Mrs.?
Sure, I am, and it's okay.
Okay, without further ado, Mr. Zivek, the audience is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our dear MC. So, good afternoon, everybody. Selamat siang semuanya. Здравствуйте, добрый день всем. Жақсылар. It's a big honor for me to be here, and it's a big honor to participate in this webinar. So let me please greet first our dear President, Respiratory Sadam Al-Jihad, for being here, for leading us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Thank you so much for your welcoming speech.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me greet, of course, our dear speakers. Later on, I will give you a more introduction, so who it is and why they were invited to be speakers in our webinar. And our first speaker, Mr. Naufal Aulda, has a huge experience as working in engineer architect function and consultant business analysis in BNP Paribas in Morocco. As I understand, it's a huge bank. He also completed his specialization in software quality in Sidi Mohammed Ben Abdullah University in Morocco in 2015. And now he has a numerous professional experience. If I'm not mistaken, he was our speaker too during the AAYG gathering in November. And I remember that he had like a huge, really very passionate speech there. He dedicates himself a lot in community as founding member of Representative Morocco in Great Silk Way, International Youth Union since 2012. And the most interesting thing that he speaks several languages such as Arabic, English, French, German, Spanish, and Turkish. Wow, that's really impressive. Some of us can speak only 2 or 3. So I think that Mr. Aulda can be the great person who can give us a good insight about influence of Russian-Ukrainian war on Morocco, for example, and on African countries. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Aulda.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's great to hear that from you. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. So I hope that you feel good. I'm so happy to be with you in this webinar to share with my brothers and sisters around the world, especially in Africa and Asian area, about these important topics. It's the conflict and the consequence of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So, like you know, after 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic consequence on the world economy, and for a few months, we was all so optimistic, and we start to tell, yeah, the economy, the world economy start to rise step by step. But suddenly, in 23rd of February 2022, a war starts in the west of Europe between Russia and Ukraine. So, just before this conflict, we had between, for the statistic issues, between 3 and 4% in the global growth. Uh, and by the war of Russia, so just to know, Russia participates just by 3% in GDP of the world. So I'm talking about the dates before this war. So that will generate a global recession, but all type of uncertainty are bad. It may can slow down the investment projects around the world, and it can increase in economic crisis. And for that, like you know, the big consequence is the local inflation that, of course, damage the global growth even more. So we shouldn't forget that we use all the cartridge to get out of the pandemic of the COVID-19. That means that all the government around the world makes a lot of effort in the time of the COVID-19, and they try themselves to put more the power issues and some economic regulation to rise up the local economies as well. So even the first problem start to finish step by step. We enter to this war between Ukraine and Russia, unfortunately. So we can see clearly the consequence of the prices of the raw materials. I think the same in Morocco, in Africa, in the Asian countries, and the whole, even in Europe, United States, or in all the countries around the world, the prices are very, very high these days, and in particular in the oil. So the first day of the war, the barrel of the Brent, for example, equal more than 100 US dollar. I noticed that the barrel increased by 10. Sorry, this is my cat. Participate with us.
Probably he
Okay,
also
let's.
cares about Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, of course, they want to participate with us, and I think you understand the impact for that. Sorry.
Yes.
So I said that the barrel of the Brent rise more than 100 US dollar. And I noticed if the barrel increased by $10 US dollar, it rise 0.4 points in the global growth. So $10 after plus $10 repercute on the purchasing power of the citizen of the world. So that means it's very negative for the capacity of the pockets of the citizen of the world. Another problem is the gas prices. Just for example, in Europe, its growth at 3,000% between October 2002 and last April. Can you imagine? It's a crazy percentage, but unfortunately, it's true. Like we know, the natural gas, it's become the last year the second energy resource in the world, and today it's around 25% of the global energy demand after the oil and the coal. So for that, the prices of the energy resource become expensive because we get it especially from Russia and the Ukraine too. So we hear about the sanctions, we hear about embargo. So the sanction of the gas exportation from Russia, it's equal also the sanction of the economies linked to to this country as well. especially in Asian countries. That will it limits the economy dynamics in the countries of the world. That reduce the economy dynamics also in Africa and Asia as well. For that, maybe Russia can collaborate strongly with another countries, maybe in the west of Asia, China as an example. But it's not certain that it push the economy to rise in the great way. Another important issues, as Mr. Al Jihad said, is the weight and the green. Like you know, Ukraine and Russia are one of the largest oil producer in the world. So the prices are higher today. I think that's also in your country as well. And it can generate, unfortunately, a social danger in our countries. So people, if they don't find the bread to, to find maybe in the markets or in the whole local supermarkets, it can be a problem for the countries as well, especially in Africa. So through this crisis, all the materials first increase at 140% since April 2022. That means, for example, if before I have, for example, 1 or 10 US dollar, I can go to the market and I can buy, for example, 6 or 7 steps. Today, with this inflation, with the same prices, I can buy just 3 or 4 steps. That reduce the power of the pockets of the citizens. So what's the solution that we suggest? First, we suggest that the local government should reduce or eliminate the taxes on the importation and exportation for the energy power, especially oil, gas, and elementary food, especially in that time. And the collaboration youth south between countries, it's in all sectors, it's also important, because we can find some countries in Africa, for example, that they have gas and energy, and it may there is some political or conflict problem between these countries, so they don't want to collaborate in that way anymore. So also we push the countries to make or to realize the new pipeline, like a gas oil pipeline, for example, between Nigeria and Morocco, passing by 6 or 7 countries. So that means that the local economics for many countries like Senegal, Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, and the other countries in the west of Africa can benefit for this pipeline as well. Also, the government should encourage the soft energies like the sun energy, wind energy, and why not, if we have a possibility to use nuclear soft energies as well, of course, in the civil use. The government should also encourage the local agriculture to produce, for example, well, green, rice, in the way to ensure them citizen in the good way. So we should have like our autonomy in the agriculture sector as well. And finally, we push the government and also the organization to support them, the, especially the youth one, to realize the idea by encouraging the startups, the small company in the perspective of the South-South youth collaboration. In the end, my dear brothers and sisters around the world, what we hope is that this war will be finished as soon as possible, and it will be just limited that time between just these two countries, and it will be finished, as I said, as soon as possible, because we don't need to see the Third World War as well. So thank you for watching, and
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for a very interesting speech, Mr. Olda. I'm sure that we today, for like 10-15 minutes, we've learned a lot, right? We understand that it's very important to, first of all, to find solution for this problem, because as Mr. Olda said, that we are having problems with commodity, with gas, with wheat prices, right? With inflation, right? And it also has been already highlighted by Mr. Olda that there is already possibility that we can solve it. So, dear participants, I do hope that all of you enjoyed this interesting, very, very informative speech. And later on, all of you will have a chance to ask several questions, Mr. Olda, and maybe he can give us more knowledge, more leading, how to understand, how to support each other, and how to deal with this problem. Thank you so much. That was really great. Yes, so now it's time for us to move on to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Mr. Mohammad Zaman Bajwa. Are you here, Mr. Bajwa? So while he is joining us, let me give a huge introduction about him. So Mohammad Zaman Bajwa works as an executive director in UFK International Lobby Group Islamabad since 2013. And he has made many appearances on media regarding human rights, sustainable development goals, and international relations. He works as a Central Asia correspondent at Daily Parliament Times. So for sure, he knows a lot about how this war influenced Central Asian countries, such as my country, for example, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and others. He coverages events about diplomacy and has interviewed ambassadors and diplomats. Also, he did a Master in Development Studies in Zahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Institute in Science and Technology, and he even received several awards. For example, one award from the government of Azerbaijan for strengthening of media relation between Pakistan and Azerbaijan in 2021. So Mr. Bajwa already has already some experience dealing with this force. So I'm sure that he can give us his insights, his opinion about how we can deal with next war that happens this year. So Mr. Bajwa, are you here? Mr. Mohammad Bajwa, are you here? Okay, great. Good afternoon, Mr. Bajwa. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, very good. How about us?
Okay, it's okay now. First of all, I want to thank you, AAYG, for this opportunity to speak with the youth of Asian and African countries. And it's a very amazing experience. And I want to give compliments to the Indonesian youth and Indonesian government, because they are doing diplomacy on both sides. A few days back, Mr. Joko was in Russia and Ukraine, and he was trying to mediate between Russia and Ukraine about the war. And the other thing is that now the youth of Indonesia is doing activities such like this today's session to talk about the issue and the impact of this war on the global community. My brother Nofal, although from Morocco, he speaks very well and he explains everything about the inflation, what this impact is actually causing and impacting the normal lives of common people. So hope he is doing good in Morocco. And I have been to Morocco once. It's a great country. So if we want to come to our topic, actually, the war was facing adverse impact, a worse impact after, and he was trying to overcome from the impacts of the COVID in 2 years, the economy of the countries, even the economy of the most strong economies were shaking, and they were facing a bad impact due to this COVID situation. But especially in the low income economies like African economies and Asian economies, the impact was more worse. And but by the hope, by the effort of the WHO, and there was a vaccination, and things were recovering back, and economies were just trying to, the governments are trying to facilitate their common people to overcome this situation. But right now, this war between Ukraine and Russia is impacting because you all know that directly or indirectly, most Asian economies and African economies are dependent on the energy which comes from Ukraine or from Russia. The other thing is that majority of the African countries, they have more dependency on both countries. I am giving you an example that in 2021, Kenya imported 30% of its consumption of wheat from Ukraine. Cameroon imported 44% of fertilizers from Russia. And to talk about the Ghana, 60% of his iron production, iron comes from Ukraine and Russia. So, as my brother Nofal talk about that this situation impacted, actually slowed down the development projects. So, there is an alarming thing that this impact is not just for a few months, because there is a season of sowing wheat and crops in African countries. So, if there is a lack of wheat, lack of fertilizer, then these things will impact more worse, because they were not able to sow their wheat. And so basically it's a great threat to the food security of the Asian African countries. As we talk about Pakistan, and as we talk about the countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, ASEAN countries. So there is an impact as well. You can observe that the cost of the transportation, cost of the living, food, because all the majority of the world's population is living in Asia and Africa. Where you can say that the half of the population is living in these two regions. So, and most Asian economies are the consumption economies. They generate, if the fuel prices will be there will be hike in the fuel prices, then it will means that the cost of food production will be increased, and it will directly impact on the local production and the local people. And you can see that due to this war, the inflation in the European countries, especially in the USA, it's the most ever on the high position in the history of America. So you can imagine that how it can impact on the weaker economies. It's not only impacting the import dependent countries from the Ukraine or Russia, it is also impacting the exporter countries. We could talk about the China, which is getting 42% of its oil from Russia. You can talk about the Korea. They are the importers. When the buying power of a common people is very low, and they are not able to buy things, how these countries will export these things? When these countries will not export these things, and the the weaker economies will have to facilitate that people. So and in that case, they will get low taxes. When they will get low taxes, so they will be not able to spend their money on that development. So it's a impact in that case. And if you talk about, there is another impact which we must have to talk about, that is the impact on the this war on the situation of Afghanistan. That is very important. You know that post 15 August situation, when US withdraw from Afghanistan, there was a huge crisis. There's millions of the people moved towards Pakistan on the Central Asian countries. But in that crisis, there was no food because due to the weaker economy of Afghanistan, and due to this war, the attention is diverted from the Afghanistan to the Ukraine. And so that's this thing is most impactful and worsening the situation of Afghanistan. As we are talking about the Central Asia, there are 7 to 8 million people from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, which travel from their respective countries to the Russia, and their attention to go there is the work. They go to go there to earn bun and butter for their families back to their respective countries. When there is a situation that the world is going to sanction the Russian, so obviously it will impact the local economy of Russia as well. So the people from these Central Asian states which are working in Russia, they will not able to get more jobs there, and the amount they are sending back to their respective countries will impact their foreign exchange remittances. So it's another impact. And we are talking about that, how we can find the solution of this impact. First of all, that we have to reframe the structure of global economic flow, global remittances flow, global and the spread of the global money. And the other thing is that the government have to see other countries like Venezuela, like Saudi Arabia, like Gulf countries for their energy needs. And other thing is that they have to find, as my brother Nofal already told, that they have to find other ways for their energy. They have to go to the hydro energy, and they have to find the green energy resources like the solar energy. And we have also to bring a change in our social life, in our daily life. The common people have to adopt the habits that they can help their respective countries to minimize the burden on the energy sources. We have to bring some less consumption of electricity, fuel consumptions, and we have to spread awareness regarding the public transportation. So less than vehicles come on the streets, so it will impact, it will bring a good impact on the climate change as well. So there is a other worse example which I wanna mention here, that the situation of Sri Lanka. Right now, there is a worse situation in Sri Lanka due to this global recession. Their economy is collapsed. They are not able to go schools. Government shut the schools. They have appointed police and armed forces on the petrol pumps. So local public is not allowed to go and get fuel from the fuel stations. So it's a worse situation, and Sri Lanka is looking towards Russia to fulfill their and to require the needs of their country, but there is a global sanctions on Russia, so the situation is getting worse day by day. So this is the situation. This is a global situation, and right now the international platforms like United Nations, even ASEAN, SICA, they have to find us, OIC, they have to find a solution. They have to go and they have to mediate between Ukraine and Russia. So this situation must have to stop, because it's not just impacting on the countries surrounding or neighboring to the both countries. Actually, they are impacting on the global economy. So this situation must have to end. Thank you.
Okay. Wow, Mr. Bajwa, thank you so much. That was really impressive speech. You have highlighted so many problems that people are struggling with. So I'm sure that all participants have understand how the situation is getting worse, not only with prices, right? but also with migrant situation in Central Asia, but also with other problems such as just finding a solution, and we have to find some solution for it. You're absolutely right. So thank you so much, Mr. Bajwan. And we will have some question and answer discussion later, and I'm sure that our participants will ask you a lot about what you have told us today. So, and now it's time for us to move on to our next speaker. Let me introduce her. We do have our very beautiful representative from Indonesia, Miss Gracia Paramita. So Ms. Gracia Paramita is currently supporting G20 Indonesia 2022 presidency through collaboration among stakeholders of G20. She is a lecturer at Communication and Business Institute, London School of Public Relations in Jakarta, and she did PhD in politics at the University of York, United Kingdom in 2020. She is interested in doing research and discussion about G20 climate governance, sustainable development goals, youth, climate change, politics, and environmental policy. So for sure, she can give us a lot, she can explain us a lot how this war really has an influence on not only economics, but probably on the other situations such as policy. She's doing a lot of social and community work. She was a co-founder of Indonesian Youth Diplomacy in 2013, which brought her to London as the Indonesian delegate of Y8 Summit 2013. And she is a passionate environmentalist who was a global youth advisor to the United Nations Environmental Programme in TUNSA Program Representative Asia Pacific region in 2011-2013. So, Ms. Gracia Paramita, may I ask you, are you here? Wow.
Hello.
So your time is yours, please.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and inviting me. I know this is still trending or very hot issues, but today I would like to highlight specifically about how Russia and Ukraine crisis affected some of Asia African countries, because I'm not, the expert of all African countries or all Asian countries. Maybe the majority should be the Southeast Asian countries and some Eastern Africa, because I think the moderator already mentioned my experience. I used to work with the United Nations Environment Program in Nairobi, Kenya, so probably that will be beneficial to our discussion today. We can start from the first question. How does the conflict between Russia and Ukraine affect Asia African economies? I would like to show two data. First, speaking of population, of course, Asia Africa becomes the majority in comparison to the US itself. But if we calculate or accumulate Indonesia, India, China, and the majority of African countries, those are, the biggest population in the world, even bigger than the G20 members. Although the G20 represents 60% of the world's population, but if we compare it to the Asian and African population, that's still much higher than the G20's population. And that affects to the second data. I got this from the United Nations data. So the wheat consumption in Africa is expected to reach 76.5 million tons by 2025, which the 48.3 million tons or 63.4% is expected to be imported outside African continent. So we know the population is the biggest, and the second problem should be the food stock or the livelihood of that population. So if and that food stock is also depending outside African countries, including Ukraine and Russia. So if this conflict remains happening, let's say until early next year, of course, that's really hard affected, or badly affected to the majority of these populations. And hunger is inevitable effect after seeing that numbers, and then the sanctions imposed by the Ukraine-Russia's conflict. But interestingly, from China's perspective, or if we look at the increasing growth of China, and also the way they develop so much in African infrastructures, that's also explored, because the majority of their projects, their infrastructure projects from China, they're not affected much, although there is a impact of sanctions between Ukraine and Russia from the Western countries or others. So that's the answers for number one. Number two, how are the Asia-Africa economic conditions during Russia-Ukraine conflict? So this conflict had a significant influence to the world economy, including the food stock, and then other logistics wise as well, because that Russia is becoming the third largest oil producer in the world after the United States and Saudi Arabia. And now going to the context of economic and environment development, or we call it sustainable development, it's not easy as well to leave the fossil fuel or the oil-based activities at all. Although we have the Paris Agreement, there is a certain target in 2030, or net zero emissions by 2050, by 2060, and others. This oil dependence through different sectors of economy are still going on. I would say at least in the next between 5 until 10 years. So once that oil got affected, especially from Russia, that there is also, I would say, asymmetric polarization. It's not like bipolar or multipolar. It can be even complex. It can be unknown polarity. We cannot define, or we cannot call it a specific interaction of the polarity. Meanwhile, in Asia, the direct effects of the war are expected to be more limited, particularly because the price of rice remains stable, or the majority of Asian countries are not fully depending on the wheat in comparison to rice or other carbo stocks or carbo sources, I would say. But some countries such as Sri Lanka and Pakistan, especially Sri Lanka right now, we are aware that they've got very bad economic situation, the global shortage of any sectors, any logistics, and that also affects to their, even the access of basic needs, any kind of basic needs. So looking ahead, the exceptional heat waves as well experienced in the springtime of India, that's another complex problem from each country's despite the crisis of Ukraine and Russia. So my point here is, although the conflict between Russia and Ukraine are still going on, each country or some of the countries are very difficult to handle their own problems, their domestic problems, or even bilateral problems between that country with their neighbors, for example. And then the other point that I would like to highlight is the sub-Saharan Africa, because their risk might be the greatest. They might have the greatest effect of this crisis, which is experiencing strong demographic growth. And they are also like the most vulnerable countries, got affected by climate change, prolonged droughts, especially in the Eastern Africa. It's also increasing destabilization, particularly in the Horn of Africa and Sahel. Nigeria and South Africa are also going through the major social crisis. The external debt of many African countries significantly in recent years, particularly with China, since the outbreak of the Ukraine war, and of course about the energy itself, not just about oil. We're talking about like clean air or clean water, the renewable energy itself. That's now, the term or the discourse of energy transition is also coming up or raising up. And what are the strategies to improve Asia-African economies during the Russia-Ukraine conflict? We know that we cannot avoid the future food price surging or the rising oil prices, and that also affects to the African continents without the innovations or without any alternative backup. It will be like a social disaster, I would say. What I mean by this social disaster, it's not just like a civil war or people's conflict within the people itself, but it can be chaotic system through the education, even through the electricity, through the basic infrastructure and basic needs, because the survivability will be very urgent things that each individual should do. Either the government will help or not, or either, whether there is a support from the private sectors or not. But we also see there is a good initiative from the United Nations by creating the Global Crisis Responsive Group, which the United Nations appointed several countries, including Indonesia and Germany, as now they are becoming the G7 presidency and G20 presidency. And that's why the food, energy, and natural development are the main highlights or main program of that group. They're trying to build more partnerships, alternative solutions, and innovations to ease the surging prices or the scarcity of food, of energy, or even other logistics issues, particularly in race or in supporting to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. So it's still connected between Global Crisis Responsive Group to the Sustainable Development Goals. And if we talk about opportunities, there should be an opportunity if we look at the rise of digitalization, digital economy, the startups, or even the Bitcoin or the rise of digital payment, digital finance system. Those should be some alternatives that we try to explore as the buffer, I would say, or alternative to increase or at least to light up the Asian African economic cooperations. We've got the Asian African Conference since 1955. I think 2018 and 2019, there were also some events and some trade agreements between Asia and African countries. So those should be, those existing initiatives should be like the buffer or, the alternative innovation that still comes up or even develop further. But the challenge is the culture or the social development of Asian and African countries are very diverse, which makes the complexity getting bigger. So that those are the challenges that we have to think further or, try to maybe build more discussion on that, because the civil wars or the different traditions are coming from this Asian and African continents. If we compare to US or Western and the European countries, I don't think they have as rich as these Asian African countries in terms of, the social assets, the people and human development, and also the tradition, the cultural diversity. So I will stop from there, and I'm looking forward to have further discussions or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Pamita. That was really interesting speech, and I would like to thank you especially for highlighting how much it is important to do cooperation. Thank you so much. It was really interesting, and it was our last speaker for our webinar. And now we are going, as Ms. Pramit already said, told us, we are going to our next session that will be highlighted by you, our dear participants. So you have heard a speech from Ms. Pramita, from Mr. Bajwa, and from Mr. Aulda. I'm sure that you do have some questions that you would like to address to them, that you would like maybe to ask. And also, if you have any other ideas that you would like to discuss, you're also welcome. So, and we do have already our first question here. And it will be, and it is addressed to Mr. Alda. So, Mr. Alda, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. So, Mr. Gusi Muhammadir is asking you that you mean that Asia and Africa depend on these two countries for the economy, such as Russia and Ukraine. And we must take this effect as something that open our mind. So should we be dependent on our resources, or should we more rely on our resources, or is there anything else that we can do?
Yeah, of course, like you know. So first, I want to thank Mr. Mohammed Zaman and also Mrs. Gracia for this presentation because it was also important as well. So the answer is very, very clear and it's very simple. Like you know, Africa and Asia, these two continents you can see are the biggest around the world, combined by these two. So we have all local resources. We have also the sun. We have also the water. So we can be independent. So what we suggest is the rules of the political levels. It's the invitation for the local governments, for example, to improve some politics that it serves well to the local citizens, and also with the cooperation with the countries and the countries hood that they live together maybe, and they have some points, common points to make like common investment, to have a same view, because in the end what's the importance, it's like we said, the happiness life into the countries as well. So we have all things. We have youth. We have the youth also are the very strong power. When we say youth, we say that we have a capacity to produce. We have the capacity to improve the agriculture issues. We have the possibility to be autonomous as well, in the way to make the life very easier than before. So it's depend just the like we say the government should put head on the table and make a good strategy for us and for the generation of the future.
I see. Okay, Mr. Alda, thank you so much for your answer. So as it has been highlighted, yes, we can be dependent. We can be absolutely independent. We can rely on our local resources if we want, because first of all, we are Kengazer as a YAG, and our Asian African YAG government is a great example how we can deal, how we can cooperate to work with it. Thank you so much for the great question, and thank you so much for the great answer. And we do have already the second question from a board member, Wahyuni. So he has a question for our third speaker, Ms. Paramita. Ms. Paramita, So Wahyu is interested for the third speaker. What is the impact of the world economy from Russia-Ukraine peace mission brought by the Indonesian President, Mr. Joko Widodo? And how big is the impact if you look at the region of in Asia, Africa?
Okay, yeah, I think it's getting viral when President Joko Widodo finally came or arrived to Ukraine, and Russia met directly or in person with President Zelensky and President Putin. It's really a good initiative. I appreciate that, but we cannot just depend that meeting as the determining factor to, make the peace settlement successful. The journey is still long to go, and I would say it's still the beginning step to do it, because there were some, I would say, not disinformation, but maybe missing link, because some media or some information say that the President Joko Widodo received message from Zelensky to Putin, but some others said, no, that's not true. So that's another, factor that we have to analyze as well. Meanwhile, the presence of President Joko Widodo there, it's also related to the mandate or his duty as the co-chair of global responsive crisis group, the new initiative that the United Nations already did, the one that I just mentioned previously. With the other co-chairs are, I think, from Bangladesh, and then the the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz. So yeah, it's good that the President Joko Widodo tried to ease or reduce the escalation of food scarcity and fertilizers, but it doesn't, determine the bigger opportunity for, let's say, gaining more imports or exports activities, or let's say, the next few weeks there will be no embargoes, there will be no sanctions anymore economically from the Western countries. The tension is still quite high, even in the G20 itself. So I would say there are three possible impacts of that presence. First, yes, of course, it will impact the future food stocks. Secondly, it also impact Indonesia to lead, to remain influential in the G20 presidency, because this time is being so difficult to become, we're trying to invite all, but there is also a high demand that G19 might happen soon, which means the Russia will be boycott, or will be taken out, and there will be more boycott from the Western countries. Or when when President Joko Widodo said there is an invitation to Zelensky, it might slightly cut the boycott, but still it doesn't create another forum like G21 or G22 or others. So that's number two. And number three, it might impact another, I would say, another possibility to create more Indonesia-Africa economic cooperations, because in 2018 and 2019, we've done some trade agreements and visits as well, but that didn't follow up in the next few years, like due to the COVID, and I don't see more concrete investments. So that visits should affect to African countries as well, to, at least Indonesia try to bridge or to represent what might be nightmare for African countries, like, for example, the scarcity of wheat consumption. I hope that answers.
Oh, I do hope so. I do hope that our board member is satisfied with your great answer, actually, because yeah, it is just beginning, right? But we do hope that Indonesia will keep leading for better or peaceful world. Thank you so much for very good answer. And we do have our already the next question, and it is to Mr. Bajwa. So, Mr. Bajwa, we do have question for you here. How important do you think to form a regional union in Asia and Africa, like European Union in Europe, to face the upcoming economical challenges and helping regional members in this type of situation?
If Actually, if you talk about the some organization like the European Union, there is need for that. Actually, there is an organization which is SICA, which have more than 23 countries, and some have observers as well. But there is a lack of African countries in that. So the work can be done on that. Actually, we have to understand the dynamics of Asia. Asia, the world's largest conflicts are still happening here in Asia. You talk about Pakistan and India. There is a dispute. People of Kashmir are talking about the right to self-determination, and there is a warlike situation between two countries. There is another issue which is between China and Taiwan. There is a issue of Iran and the Gulf countries. There is another issue which is Syria. You talk about the situation of Libya. So more of the conflicts in the world lies between Asia. And if you talk about the regional, and as already well mentioned by the professor, that there is a lot of local issues and tribal and democratic rivalries between in Africa as well. So there is a need that some maybe they can form an organization, but the reason is that the organizations will not help this situation. If there is a bigger organization which is called a United Nations, they have the mandate to come and mediate between both the two countries regarding this situation. But actually, you know that there is some political interest, some economical interest, so they are not going to mediate. If you see the situation, European and America have their own stance regarding this conflict. They are saying that Ukraine, actually Russia invaded Ukraine. On the other hand, Russia also have a very logical point that if they actually the NATO is expanding, and they're coming to the borders of Russia. So the reason is that the platform doesn't matter. The matter is the determination of the global leaders. Like the Joko Widodo came to both countries, and he tried because Indonesia is one of the largest Muslim country in the world. So he took the responsibility and tried to mediate between both countries. So there is other regional powers. You can talk about the China. You can talk about the even Americans and European Union. They can try to mediate, but the thing is that there should be a level playing ground for both countries. After that, this kind of problems can be solved.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bajwa. So we do have to rely, first of all, on our global leaders, right?
Yes.
So do you think that all this global, like deepening the question of our board member, do you think that these global leaders should unite, like the global leaders who are against the war, who wants just to be determinant, like for example, President Jokowi, do they have to unite? Do they have to create another platform, or like the platform will not matter at all? Absolutely.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I just already mentioned that the lack of determination. If global community want to settle this issue, this can be settled on United Nations. You can talk about on the General Assembly. You can go to the Security Council. that this issue can be settled. But right now there are the political interests, there are the economical interests. So that's why they took the sides. So that's why this situation is getting worse and worse day by day.
Yes. But what do you think? Even like if they would be such determined leaders, we do have the problem of Putin, who is leading Russia and who doesn't want to have any kind of cooperation with anyone except Belarus and some other countries who are still supporting him. What do you think about this? How it can be solved?
It's a very technical question, and it's create some diplomatic troubles as well. So I think so. I just said that there is a certain mind. So you have to think that what's your point of view about that particular country. As I already mentioned that European stance is European have a other stance, and Putin have a very, actually, you know that they have faced some situation in 80s when there was a joint Russia USSR. After that, there was a fall in their economy, and Putin came in the power, and actually he trying to bring the past respect and the honor of Russia. So he is trying different ways, and actually he have some his expansion ideas to bring back some honor to their country. So I think so it depends on the situation and where you have and what you think about that. I will just say only this thing.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Vajra. That was really interesting. And one more reminder for all of us, please, if you have any question, our dear participants, dear board members, feel free to ask anything, because unfortunately, Mr. Olda, one of our dear speakers, has a very short time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And we do have one. So Mr. Rohmadani is asking, how much does the Russia-Ukraine conflict impact the world's supply chains? And will this impact disturb economic growth, especially in Asia-Africa region? So, Mr. Olda, probably you can answer to this question. What do you think?
Yeah, please, can you repeat the question? Because it was like miss in my connection as well, please.
Oh, I see. So Mr. Rahmadani is asking our speakers, how much does the Russia-Ukraine conflict impact the world's supply chains? And will this impact disturb economic growth, especially in Asia-Africa region?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So, like, you know, the let's talk about the agriculture issues. That's mean grain and well. So if the conflict will not stop this, for example, this summer, so it will be very, very difficult to do agriculture, especially in Ukraine and the southwest of Russia to start them activity as well. So if it's not, we can believe that probably in 2023 it will be a very difficult year to us, because the local strategies that we do, it's not at the point that we can have our autonomy in that sector. Also, what we can see, it's if the war will stop as soon as possible, it will be benefit for all the economy, the world economy as well. So this is our hope, and no one can know what's the news or what new effect that it will generate for this conflict as well. What we don't want that, for example, another conflict between Russia and other countries like Sweden, Norway, or Scandinavian countries as well, or maybe Moldova, Romania. I don't want that, and we don't want that, and we don't want to dream one day to have this kind of problems as well, because we won't just limit this damages in that stuff as well. So as youth, we just have now like a hope that everything will be in the good issues as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Alda. That was really interesting answers. It was really great answer. And I do hope that our participant is satisfied with it. And going next, we do have the second next question. And it actually goes to the root of this problem. So our dear speakers, could you please explain to our participants that some of them, I deeply studied Russia and Ukraine, but I couldn't find the reason of this war. Could you please explain why this war actually happened? So probably it's directed to Mr. Bajwa or Ms. Paramita.
Actually, you if
Yes, we can hear you.
it's my turn.
Yes, sure. Please. Yeah, Mr. Bajwa, you can answer the question, yes.
Actually, you can say that it's a battle of egos. It's a battle of power. Actually, there are two. One superpower, which is America, and there's a other alliance which is NATO. They want to include some countries to the NATO, which are near to Russia, so they can keep an eye on Russia regarding their agendas, what's going on. And so that's why they just installed some defense systems, missile system on the boundaries of Russia, and they want to bring Ukraine as well in this alliance. But on the other hand, Russians they are on a proactive stance on this issue. They said that there was not the written, but there was a on by words agreement that NATO will not include more countries near to the Russia. So he will not include Ukraine in this NATO. So actually, they think that if Ukraine goes in the favor of NATO, they become a member of NATO, there will be a security threat to Russians. So actually, and there will be a threat to their sovereignty. So it's a power game. So two military mights are on their agendas, and the victim is Ukraine, the people of Ukraine. You can see the miseries of the common people of Ukraine. Oh, Ukraine was invaded, and oh, there was a bloodshed on the street of Ukraine, and millions of Ukrainian migrated to the Poland and other European countries to survive their lives. Actually, it's a loss of humanity. Two egos just impacting on the humanity. So this it's a very simple reason. There is a lot more other reasons which are not right now concerned to this platform. But if you want to just go on the basic idea why these both military mights are fighting on Ukraine, the answer is a simple line: it's a game of power. Who is more powerful? They are going to show their power on the pure people of Ukraine from the both sides.
Oh, yeah. It's so sad to understand that this kind of game power can influence whole world, right? Some plans of some people, and it's changing the world. Okay, thank you so much for explanation. That's really helps us to understand why it came. So it can be also can help us to understand what can be the solution for it, right? If we understand the root. And we do have more time for other questions. Dear participants, please feel free to raise your hand and ask here or ask in maybe in chat. If you have any questions or even any thoughts, any solutions that you can give us that we can discuss here, It's a great opportunity for you to show yourself and to share your opinion. We do have here some other, for example, Mr. Moore. We do have our board member. Maybe you're here. Maybe you can ask some questions. Please try to join faster because our speakers are really have to go to another important also webinars and other meetings too. So you have very limited time to discuss with them. Okay, and we have another question from our participants, Ms. Zara, to Ms. Paramita. So is there any way for us as an individual part of Asia-Africa countries to support the prevention or reduction of any further impact of Russia-Ukraine conflict on our country's economy? Is it possible?
That's a very interesting question, actually, and it's so reflective question. There should be and there might be like opportunities for individual participation. You know that social media for young people, young generation can be powerful tools or a very influential way and very fast and easy to do it because you just keep spreading out messages, peaceful messages, for example, or do the petition, or even if we talk about humanitarian assistance, we also can donate, make donations or become a donor or create the crowdfunding to help Ukraine's, those initiatives should be there, I'm sure. But now I'm just talking about, let's just connect to the G20. Because Indonesia is now the G20 presidency, and every stakeholder has ability to take a part, including young generations, either through the Y20 or through the civil society 20, C20, or even the working groups of the G20. So the more we are connected or stay updated to, for example, the social media of G20, through the Instagram account like the G20.org or Indonesia.G20, that can be an alternative platform, the way you can, create a good message or a peaceful message to, as the alternative way to ease the conflict. Although it might be very least to do, maybe you think in that way, but that still matters because the economic growth and economic inflations are not just based on government's policy. Can also affect through, it can also come from individuals, for those people who might do not just viral messages, but keep doing consistent peaceful messages, for example. Or let's say you are also connected through the discussions on what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, and make joint research, for example, between African researcher and Indonesian researcher, or African and Asian researchers. I think the opportunity is there, but somehow young generations between Africa and Asia are fragmented, I would say. They are connected, but fragmented based on the demography. Maybe South Asian and, South Asian and the West Asian might be close geographically to the African countries, and they might have similarities of the problems, but it doesn't mean, again, through the digitalized world, to the apps or social media, those can be very direct and fast way to have that similarities the same as like South Asia with Africa. So the way that China or Southeast Asia or other Asian countries should have the equal opportunities to build further cooperation with African youth, for example. This is something that we need to explore, you know. There is an initiative called Indonesia Africa Youth Friendship within the Y20 network. If you are interested to join, you can also try to connect with PPI Dunia or the Indonesians overseas, the Association of Indonesian Students Overseas, because they just did initiative of that Indonesian Africa Youth Friendship in January. But if you are interested more on seeking research opportunity or even make a TikTok, TikTok movement between Asia and Africa, I think that should be something unique, and it can be another powerful way to convince that young people are not just following the government, you know, because sometimes the young generation have been captured as the ornament or the object of the economic growth. But we, as the young generation, can be the subject. We should do more initiatives and concrete actions, even, convincing the leaders, I mean, the government leaders, that young people are nowadays having a lot of initiatives, very aware of the global issues, and widely connected with several types of programs. Those are something that we have to spread more, instead of course, there have been some humorous or, something casual or something informal activities, but we need also that kind of cooperation, like the positive message should be done.
It's absolutely right. Many people, young people, think that we cannot do anything, but we are very powerful. We can lead TikTok, we can lead all social media, and we can make others to hear us, to say that we can say that we don't want war. And as Ms. Paramita says, that we have a lot of platforms to show ourselves. That's a really great message. I think that, like, today, maybe all our participants can share with others too, that you can do everything. You just make others to listen to you. Wow. And unfortunately, our time is getting shorter and shorter. Some of our speakers have to go already. So it was our last question. And I think that was very symbolic question, really. There are a lot of platforms such as Asia, African youth governments that can help us, young people, to make others to hear our voice, and to, like, you can do really TikTok, Instagram. Don't forget also to tag AAYG, okay? So everybody can know that today, what happened today, and you can share this with others. So, and we do have to, and in closing, as a closing conclusion for this very interesting session, I would like to remind you what we discussed today and what is our conclusion, what is our solution that we propose. So we do understand that Russian and the war between Russia and Ukraine is impacting all of us, right? It doesn't matter where are you. Are you in Asia, in Southeast Asia? Are you in Africa, or you're in Central Asia? You will be touched by this conflict, and we have to solve it. Yes, and okay, and I think that maybe we can give very, very short answer to the very, very last question for our second speaker, Mr. Bajwa. There is a question that this effect reveals to us that human resources are not activated enough. So what do you think about it?
You are very right that the human resources, actually they are talking about that the human resources are not activated in the Russian African scenarios.
As I understand, yes. That's
so actually there are human resources there are very uses. Actually the immigrants of the Ukrainian side are give a very good treatment, actually, because they are the European race, so that's why they are free to move anywhere in the Europe. So on this aspect, yes, they are, the human resources are allocated very well. On other things, yes, you can say that about the military might, on that side they have provided them some support regarding the missiles, regarding the other military equipments to the Ukrainian, to just to fight with the Russians in this aspect. If you are talking about the Ukrainian aspect and Ukrainian resources, yes, there are a lot of things which can be done on the humanitarian aspects. There are some aid which is sent by my country, Pakistan, as well. There is a other lot of humanitarian help which is provided to the effectives of this war, and I am very glad that the first speaker, Miss Grisia, raise a very valid point, that regarding the human resources. Being a youth, we can't go on the ground, zero ground. We can't contribute on the resources physically or by money, but we can provide them the social support through social media, through the sympathy. I will take them by empathy messages on Twitter. She very well spoke about the use of TikTok. Actually, you know that the TikTok is very famous between youth nowadays. So it's a very good platform to spread awareness regarding the peace. And youth is actually the symbol of peace, and they can do a lot by their collective efforts. So I think so. There have to lot of to done on this aspect.
Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much for your answer, because it highlights one more time how important for us to unite and cooperate as a youth, right? To show
Yeah.
that this world should be ended. And thank you so much, Mr. Bajwa, for a really interesting answer. And as a reminder for all of us, it was really our last question, because our time is, yes, it's very interesting topic and we can talk about it a lot for hours. But unfortunately, on this platform, it's a bit limited. So let me give us some conclusion on what we are going to propose as the conclusion of this webinar, what we can do to end this war, what we can do to prevent, to less the economic crisis in our countries. First of all, by our speakers, it was highlighted that we have to support the green energies, that we have to support the logistic infrastructures that will give us opportunity to be less dependent on oil, less dependent on gas energy, right? Because it is really giving us a lot of problems in terms of inflation, in terms of prices. And one of these also, we have to cooperate and collaborate. Collaboration can be done by different platforms, and we also can collaborate to deal with some logistic problems. So I think that it is one of the most important things actually, is that we have to collaborate, that we have to unite, and it can help us to deal with it. And also, as it has been highlighted by our other, that we have to encourage our agriculture, we have to encourage our local domestic infrastructures that can, not only infrastructure, but agriculture, we can reduce the taxes, so it can help us to deal with it. It can help us to make us less dependent on huge exporters such as Russia and Ukraine, who is having a lot of hard times right now. So that was it. Thank you so much. It was a huge honor for me to be your moderator. Thank you so much, Mr. Bajwa. Thank you so much, Ms. Paramita. And thank you so much, Mr. Olda, for being our speakers. Stay safe and healthy. And it's time for our MC. MC, please.
Okay, Zibex. Wow. Oh, that was very interesting discussion. And of course, we can yeah, discussion long time for this theme because it's very you know hot issue in this nowadays. Okay, and this is very important for us, young generation, how we our role in this issue. So of course, I think sure of all of you still have a question. Maybe all of you have opinions that want to be discussing in this international webinar, but unfortunately we have limited time. So yeah, speakers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow AAYG, also board member. This marks the end of our webinars, our international webinars on the impact of Russia-Ukraine conflict on Asian Africa economy. All right, the next agenda will be delivering certificates of appreciation for the speakers and be followed by photo sessions. Maybe the operator will spotlight our speakers. Yeah. Okay. For the speaker, we take picture one by one. Okay, thank you for showing the certification. Okay. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Unfortunately, the other speakers have been left because they have something to do, something important to do, and so we just move to our amazing moderator, Mrs. Zibex. Okay, please take the moment. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next will be we take picture together. So hope you all or the participant can open your camera and give your the best smile. Okay, please open your camera. Okay, first slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, thank you. I would like to thank all of the participants for your participation in this webinar, and I hope this webinar can add new insights, and provide new perspective for all of us on the problem that are currently happening in the world. Yeah, maybe that's it. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. I do apologize if there are any mistakes that I made in the beginning. Maybe I mispronounced Mr. Zibex, Mr. Bajwa, yeah, Mr. Sadam. Thank you for joining me in this webinar. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.
Of Africa.
rakyat Indonesia.
I promise you, as President of Asian African Youth Government, I will do my very best as we, all of AAYG administrator, have a strong commitment to develop this organization. It will be a pleasure to work with you. Unfortunately, it has been 67 years since the ASEAN African Conference in 1955. The principle of Dasar Sila Bandung, human rights, integrity, sovereignty, equality for all ethnics and nations, and the principle of togetherness are still fully unachieved. The highest poverty, unemployment, hunger, educational disparity, humanitarian crisis, environment destruction, and corruption occur in a number of ASEAN and African countries. Thus has been further increased the present COVID-19.
The geopolitical situation is quite complex today. But I'm sure that great expectations are put to the youth. You are our future. And I hope that ASEAN African Youth Government will do your best for our future, for our generation. So I would like to wish you good luck in all your endeavors. And I'm sure that you will have very much deal of very interesting projects. So Russia is with you. Yes, you may rely on our support. And as your president said, the tiger of Asia, the lion of Africa. Good luck.
One thing is clear to me, that we will not be able to achieve any of these goals unless the young generation takes the lead. And the young generation cannot take the lead unless they are fully equipped to do so. This would require massive investment in their education, health, as well as in their physical and intellectual development. So my young friends, today I have two messages for you. My first message is that you, the young people, must understand your potentials, your powers and your energy, and use them towards the betterment of the world. You must prepare yourself to confront the challenges faced by the world. In order to do so, you must equip yourself with the required skills and knowledge, build your capacities, and enhance your productivity.
In Algeria, our independence is in 1962, 5 July. And the government joined this independence date with the young festival. It's 5 July in Algeria is independence and youth together. This importance, more important, the youth.
Saudara-saudara sekalian yang saya banggakan, dewasa ini di tengah derasnya arus globalisasi dan kompleksnya dinamika zaman, peran dan kiprah pemuda di kancah internasional, khususnya dalam hal ini kawasan Asia Afrika, semakin signifikan dan sangat bermakna strategis. Peran penting pemuda Asia Afrika tersebut dapat dimanifestasikan dalam beberapa dimensi. Antara lain, yang pertama adalah stabilitas politik dan keamanan. Yang kedua, penyelesaian krisis kemanusiaan. Yang ketiga, pengurangan angka kemiskinan dan pengangguran. Yang keempat, peningkatan kualitas sumber daya manusia, khususnya generasi muda. Dan yang kelima, mendorong meningkatkan kesejahteraan dan kemakmuran masyarakat Asia Afrika. Dengan kapasitas kelembagaan yang dimiliki organisasi kepemudaan Asia Afrika, kiranya dapat dibangun sinergi dan kolaborasi pemuda Asia Afrika dengan berbagai pemangku kepentingan, khususnya pemerintah di negara masing-masing, untuk mewujudkan prinsip-prinsip Dasar Bandung sebagai legasi yang diwariskan oleh momentum kesejahteraan Konferensi Asia Afrika Bandung tahun 1955.